All three of them. They look great, Todd. How's it going, Todd? We are live. Welcome to Westward Bees. I'm Bryan.
I'm Todd.
Welcome, everybody. I live in Lakewood, Colorado. Sometimes we don't do introductions. We
Yeah,
feel like everyone here, we know everyone. So, it'd be nice to introduce ourselves. I live in Colorado, Lakewood, Colorado, which is just west of Denver. We just got a little bit of rain. We had a giant kind of heat wave for quite a while, and now we've got a little bit of cooler weather. With my wife, I run Flower Street Farm, and I'm Flower Street Farm Bees on YouTube, and we run about 100 colonies, do farmers markets, and that's what I've been spending a lot of my week getting ready for, is the farmers market this weekend. How about you, Todd?
Well, I'm in Clovis, California, which is Central California, kind of basically surrounded by almonds on the west and the south and the north, and then the east side is the Sierra Nevadas. I learned last year that my new number is going to be about 55, 60, and that's where I'm going to be. Right now, I'm like at 48. I had a couple weak ones that just, I think it was queen issues, and they just dwindled. So besides that, it's too hot to go out there right now and mess with them. So I just leave them be, but yeah.
Are you in a dearth period now?
Yeah. We have been for about 2 weeks. A week and a half maybe. But the blue curl's coming. So I mean, I caught a whiff of it last weekend. So I'm like, oh, it's starting. So I should be able to smell it this week.
So you'll have a time in your year where you'll put your supers back on to catch that later flow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know what? I'm sort of excited because I got a package from Miller Bee Supply out of North Carolina, and I ordered some of those frame spacers for my supers. So I run 8s like you do. I ordered the 7 frame rest thing, so I got equally spaced frames at 7 in my supers. So
are you talking about the metal brackets that hold your frames in place?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Have you used those before?
No. And I'll tell you why. It's because I always, way back in the day when I watched Fat Bee Man videos, he was against it because he said, well, that's a place where the small hive beetles hide.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I get that. They're underneath the metal and stuff. Well, I don't have any wood. I've got fake wood, but I don't have a small hive beetle problem. So all these years, I never really thought about it until this year. I go, you know what? It would be nice if I could just space all of them out and have all thick comb. I did it before with my thumb or something, but I don't have time to sit there and dilly-dally around with that. So I put them in, put the lid on, and that's it.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing. Now, this year I'm starting with mediums. So I don't have any medium comb. It's just medium foundation with wax on it right now. So
that's a problem with those spacers.
Yeah. So hopefully those other bees in another yard, they get on the blue curl, because I did smell it out there too. I'm just going to let them be the builders. They're pretty strong out there, actually. And see if they can build me up some boxes, enough for bringing them back to the farm for oranges, or at least a good start for oranges, and then mix in some new foundation at the same time. So
gotcha. I want to pause and say hi to the chat, the folks in the chat. See a lot of the usual folks. Kathy, I think, is from Connecticut. Is that right? And George and Kathy are a couple. Is that right? Help me out if that's not right, Kathy. I think that's right. I'm trying to get to know everybody. I see Pete and Eric from Colorado. It's great to see them. There's Eddie. I saw Michael in the chat earlier. Joey, Chris. I see Reverend Larry's in here tonight. Welcome. Did you get a chance to see that interview on Beekeeping Today with Michael Mahar from 21st Bee?
Is that for me?
Yeah.
No, I didn't. I have not yet.
So good. He did such a good job. You know, we know him and we know kind of the way he runs his bees. And I knew a little bit about how he did his bourbon honey, but he went into detail about how he did it in that chat, and it was really, really excellent. Hearing the artistry, you can tell, you know, he's playing with flavors like a chef in the kitchen. It was really cool to hear. So it's great to see everybody. I see Matt's in here. I see Brian from Castle Hives, Eddie, all the usual folks. Mark's in here as well.
I see a new name that I'm not familiar with.
Yeah.
The Block Farm Apiary.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, so I've never seen that handle before. So yeah, welcome.
Roy's I'm wondering if he's as well.
He might be from California. I don't know.
Maybe.
Hopefully he answers, and we'll see what or she.
Yeah.
I'll just say they.
So we're in a place where I just, you know, my honey harvest is done. We don't get a second honey harvest, so I'm cleaning up my supers here in the backyard. I pulled wet supers off that have been cleaned off. I finally finished spinning out frames, so those are now on my colonies in the backyard getting cleaned up. So I'm still doing the math on everything, and I still have maybe like 12 comb frames to cut. So I haven't added up my comb frame. So definitely I'm going to be down from last year, but I still figured stuff out, and, you know, nature was nice to me and gave me a pretty good harvest anyway. So I'll still be able to get by this year. It was definitely, go ahead.
Have you tried Michael's honeycomb frames?
Not the comb frames yet. No.
Yeah, I'm going to give those a shot this year. Well, next year.
Okay, so Block Farm Apiary is in southeast Nebraska.
Oh, cool.
Okay. I feel that's close to where Kevin Monfelt is. He's in, I think it's pronounced Beatrice. Are you close to Beatrice Block Farm? I think that's where Kevin Monfelt is. He does a couple of events in Colorado, and I did not get to either one. He did one down in Colorado Springs, which is about an hour south of me, and then he did one up in Loveland on a Sunday this year, and I wanted to go to it, and I was planning on going to it, and that was a day when we just had 1 hour away. Okay. We just had one Sunday event. My son was doing it, and his car broke down on the way up to the market. So I had to go and kind of help him out instead of going to visit Kevin, but I really wanted to see Kevin. So George is in Northwest Connecticut. Okay. I grew up in New Jersey, not too far from MJ, maybe 45, 30 minutes from where MJ is in northern New Jersey. So probably not too far from where they are in Connecticut. Connecticut's super small, so anywhere is not far from there. Yeah.
I asked you, I think you said you didn't know where it was at, where Spillman, New Jersey is.
No.
Okay. Yeah.
What? Could you remind me why?
Well, you had asked me, have you been to New Jersey? I said, yeah, you know, because of J&J. So I was in New Brunswick. But I was in the dermatology field, and they had their big headquarters in Spillman.
Okay.
So it's out in the middle of nowhere for New Jersey, but it wasn't too far from Princeton, though, I think.
Oh yeah. That's southern New Jersey. That's pretty far from me. All right,
northern. I thought Spillman. I don't know. You know better than I do. But
sure. Well, our guest is here. I'm really excited. It's been a long time since we've seen him. Maybe like 10, 15 whole minutes. So I wanted to welcome to the stage Keith Spillman. Welcome, Keith. Good to see you.
Hey.
You look all freshened up, Keith.
Yeah. Ready to go. Fresh as a daisy. How y'all doing?
We're doing great. Another great chat. Love how you've come up with these themed topic conversations, and you've also got like almost like a a pulse on the heartbeat of the United States beekeeping, because you've got a nice panel of people, even Canada, right? So North American beekeeping, a nice like kind of state of the apiary throughout the country.
Yeah, that's fun. That's fun to see how things are going all over the place.
Yeah, Todd and I started our chat, and we kind of started it with a goal. And it's kind of evolved away from that goal to something a little bit different. We had started with this idea of we want to try to get more West Coast people involved in the chats. And I'm not sure if that's been successful. I'm not sure if that's something we've stopped trying to do. But one thing that's happened is we've kind of evolved into this chat where we like to highlight a small business or a small beekeeping style and have kind of like a one-on-one conversation, really kind of do a deep dive. So even though many of us know you, even though many of us know, or you've done interviews before, you've been with Grayson on his show, you've been with Bruce on his show. I wanted to spend a little time, Keith, and talk to you about your beekeeping business model, because I think it's a really successful model that I think a lot of people in the chat could glean a couple of really good ideas from. You've got this great philosophy of keeping beekeeping fun, and your model really matches that well. That idea of having about 25 to 30 production colonies and these strategies of how you maximize your production through those colonies. But it's been an evolution over time. The way you run your bees now isn't the way it was. I watched a video earlier saying that you started keeping bees 20 years ago. Talk about that. Talk about that beginning first year for a second.
Yeah. I had to write an intro. I'm going to do a little presentation down at a bee school down in Mecklenburg County, which is the county that Charlotte, North Carolina is in. I'm going to do that in October, and I had to write a little intro for the webpage. But in that I've been keeping bees for 20 years, but pretty much the first decade I didn't have a clue what I was doing. That was a friend of mine gave me some bees, and then he just kind of I guess he was there if I needed him, but I didn't really use them the way I should have. And of course they made it through one season. That was the end of them. But then for several years I bought bees and they would die, and I'd buy bees and make a little honey and they would die. And I didn't do any study, and I did no research. 20 years ago, YouTube wasn't a thing. So that wasn't even a resource at that time. But yeah, there for about 10 years, I was terrible. I wasn't even a bee haver. They didn't last long enough to have them. So I got out of it for a short time, and then got back in and did a little reading, got Honeybees, Beekeeping for Dummies, which I think is still a great little book. And finally got that first hive through the winter. That's kind of a benchmark. Once you can get that first hive through the winter, then it's like, you're Tarzan. I'm a beekeeper now. And kind of after that, then YouTube. I don't really know when YouTube came about as far as getting some beekeeping videos. It's been several years, but getting some information and actually paying attention, trying to learn how to keep the bees. And so, like you say, it evolved since then.
So 20 years is a long road. Would you say that break that you took of stopping keeping bees and then starting up again, that was a recommitment that really was a turning point for you to become successful? Like, did you have more time at that point to commit to them? Like, what changed? Yeah,
I think it was, I always liked, even the 10 years that I didn't have a clue what I was doing, I enjoyed it. So I just didn't know what I was doing, and the bees died, and I bought more. But yeah, taking a little break and then getting back into it, like you say, it was a more of a commitment to figure out how to keep these little bugs alive. And I was still working at that point. Me and Michelle have been retired now for it was 5 years in March. So that was a few years before we retired that I got back into it, but was definitely on a smaller scale then. I didn't really start climbing in numbers of hives until I retired. You know, I was probably less than 10 up until that point. So, but a lot of the things I was doing early on, you know, I'm still kind of doing because it worked for me. You know, once I kind of figured out how to get them through the winter and how to do certain things, you turn the knobs a certain way and it seems to work. I'm bad about once I figure out how to set the knobs, I kind of leave them alone and keep doing that till something screws up.
Yeah. Now you live, if people aren't familiar, you live, I think you called it like the eastern foothills of North Carolina, not quite the Piedmont,
right?
Not quite the mountains. I think you said you're just below 1,000 feet in elevation. Is that right?
Right. Yeah, I like to say the eastern foothills. That sounds cooler than the Piedmont.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. What's great about keeping bees where you live, Keith?
Well, this exact location, you know, we're I can be in the Blue Ridge Mountains in 45 minutes, something like that. You know, at 4,000 foot elevation. So we're not that far at all from the mountains, but you know, unbeknownst to me, you know, when I started keeping bees here, this is obviously a pretty good place to keep them. The poplar flow around here is just huge. You know, something I didn't really know when I first started keeping bees. That wasn't really on my radar even at that point. You know, where all the nectar came from around this area. But we're here in the woods. If you've watched my videos, you see we're on a pretty good sized creek. Got several springs running through the property. I think all that helps me out, especially like this year with the drought. My totals were a little bit less than last year, but they weren't off a whole lot. I think a lot of that comes from a lot of the forest around here being along creeks and springs and having a water source other than falling from the sky. So I believe that did make a difference. But yeah, it you know, we don't get a lot of snow like the mountains have. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But this is where I grew up at. You know, this is, you know, I was born and raised probably 5 miles from where I'm at right now. So I've never ventured too far.
Sure. So now I know that area like Asheville, the Blue Ridge Mountains is called a temperate rainforest because the amount of rain they get. How are you technically in that or next to it? Like, how does that work in your story?
Yeah, that would be more in the mountains, you know, in the Blue Ridge Mountains. You know, being in the foothills, we're down the hill from that. So
gotcha.
Yeah, we wouldn't be included in that.
And you'd say you're down the hill from the sourwood flow as well?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing though. You know, we've got lots of sourwood trees around here. You know, you can get out on some of the main highways. Sourwood likes to grow on the edge of the woods. So along highways, you see a lot of sourwood. So there's definitely sourwood down here, but there's other things going on at the same time. Plus, you know, supposedly below 1,000 feet, the bees don't get a lot of nectar off of sourwood.
Right.
But I help a lady up in Elkin, North Carolina. Well, North Elkin, up towards State Road, which you don't know where that's at. But her elevation is about 1,400 feet. And this year, I was up there helping her because she had a bear. She's got 2 hives I'm helping her with. And a bear got in one of them 2 days in a row. But I was checking out the other one, which thankfully the other one was the one that had the honey in it. But I popped the lid on it, pulled off the inner cover, and stuck my hive tool in it, and the honey was clear. And she actually made some sourwood, just 400 foot difference between where I'm at and where she's at. And it's some really good honey. It's sourwood, I think, with a little bit of basswood, because I can taste a little bit of a minty flavor that the basswood, or some people call it linden trees.
Yeah.
But but it's some really good honey. So,
are you getting tempted to chase that sourwood at all?
I didn't know it was that close. Now last year I was helping the same lady last year, and she didn't make sourwood last year, so I don't know. I don't know what the difference is. Last year she made some darker honey, not as dark as my tulip poplar, but it wasn't this. It wasn't what she got this year. So, but yeah, it is tempting if it's that close. Take a little trailer with a few hives and just park it in her backyard.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
And that's only 30 minutes away. So that would be pretty easy. So we'll see. That might be an option, but it's some really good honey. I've got it I'm selling a little bit of it. I put it in some small 4-ounce jars. It ends up being about 5 ounces of honey. But if I can get somebody to taste it, they'll buy it. It's that good. So so yeah, that was a surprise.
So Keith, you run about 25 to 30 production colonies. You run 10 frame mediums, everything, brood chambers, and your honey supers. And you've developed this system where you pull honey frequently to maximize your honey flow. And I wanted to highlight that model a little bit as a way to show other beekeepers that you can really, by really paying a lot of attention to the colonies that you do have and managing them well and managing them thoroughly, you can really get quite a production out of those colonies. I think a lot of us often get the big eyes and we think more is better, and sometimes that is true, but also we've figured out too that there's this wall that we hit, that if we have too many colonies, we're not going to be good stewards of those bees, and they're not going to be healthy, and they're not going to be productive, and then they're going to knock us down to a number that we really can handle. And you figured out this really cool kind of balance of having just the right amount of colonies where you can be a really good steward and pay attention to them all and really produce quite a nice harvest, not just in honey, but in bees as well. My question, that was a long lead to my question, was how does the spring of 2023, your spring of swarms, where you couldn't stop your colonies from swarming, how did that experience drive what you do today? How did it change what you do today?
Well, obviously, I had to figure out how to try to squelch these swarming tendencies, because that was just messing up so many things. It was costing a lot of money. I was keeping the road hot between here and Miller Bee Supplies up in North Wilkesboro. I think I had plenty. I'd go up there and buy a few tops and bottoms, 10 boxes, 100 frames, and think I was good to go. And man, in just a couple of weeks, I'd be heading back up the road again. So I know Michelle's probably laughing in the other room right now. She hears me say that.
And anyone who's watched your videos for years and years remembers this spring where you're like, here's another one. Here's another one.
It was crazy. I mean, I kind of duck around the corner, it's like, which one is it going to be today? I had my little wagon set up with my swarm stuff in it, so I could like put on my fireman hat and take off running, try to get them, if they were heading for a tree or in the sky or whatever they were doing, I could try to get them in a box. But that was a fun year. I mean, I learned a lot that year about swarms, how to catch them, how to get them out of a tree, how to get them to come down to a box, get them walk in a hive. I learned a lot that year, but I also knew that I had to learn how to keep that from happening, because I wasn't making a lot of honey then. I was growing hives, which that's okay. Growing hives, there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I called it the swarm du jour, the swarm of the day. That's not a good way to run a bee yard, because I knew I wasn't catching all of them. That's one thing that's in my favor here. We've got a little over 40 acres here on the creek. And so all my hives are right here, just right up the driveway from the house. I've got them split in 2 pieces down at my shop, and I call it up at the nursery. So I see my hives pretty much every day. I'm in them, walking around, seeing what's going on with them. When you do that and you don't have too many hives, you can kind of tell when one of them is acting weird. You know, that hive suddenly is not acting like it was a couple of days ago. And that kind of stuff is very important. I think you can be proactive instead of reactive. You can kind of see things before it gets bad, and pop the top and see what's going on. Sometimes nothing's going on. I had a video about that a week or 2 ago, where I had one of my hives had a bunch of dead bees out in front of it, and it looked kind of sad. But once I popped the top, they looked just fine. Plenty of brood. Everything's great. Still hadn't really figured that one out, but yeah, like you say, I think I've got 28 right now, I believe, something like that. And this year I had 20 production hives. I kind of separate my production hives from the rest of the population as far as how I look after them. But my other hives are just the ones I tell people that's the ones I play with. That's my splits and swarms, and the ones I'm growing for next year.
Yeah, we'll talk about spare parts because we've had these conversations on and off as well.
Yeah.
So what are some main swarm prevention techniques you learned from that year that you've put into place? Is it about giving your brood chamber space by building up? Are you pulling brood out of your brood chamber? A little bit of both? What's your timing look like? I think you put your supers on fairly early. Is that right?
Yeah. That was one of my early videos of the year. Is this guy crazy? I put supers on in early March. About the first or second week of March, I believe. And at the same time, I also, like you say, I run all medium boxes. My brood area is 3 boxes. Unless the hive is really, really strong, I might go to 4 boxes for the brood. But normally it's 3. And after you come through the winter, that bottom box is usually empty. There's nothing in the bottom box.
Okay.
So at the same time that I added supers, I also, a lot of times I'll rotate the boxes. And when I do that, I'm not just rotating the empty box to the top. I'm pulling some frames up into that top box out of what's now the middle one. That's one of the good things about running all mediums is frame management. I can move frames around, do all kinds of stuff that if I was running a medium or a deep with a medium on top or doing different things, you can't do that. So having all mediums.
So just to clarify, can I clarify? So you're taking that empty bottom box and you're distributing those empty frames throughout the 2 top boxes. So now you've got brood in all 3 boxes and space in all 3 boxes for the queen.
Yeah. I'll pull some brood up into that top, which was the bottom, pull it into the top empty.
Okay.
So it's not empty anymore. It's got some brood and some food in that top box. And
see, now for me, as if I were to have 100 colonies and look at that setup, I'd just be simple and take that box and I think to myself, do I put it in the middle or do I put it on top? You feel like distributing those frames throughout all of those boxes is a more effective way, or why do you decide to do it that way as opposed to just moving the box?
It's kind of like you're just equalizing within the hive, instead of equalizing hive to hive, you're equalizing in the hive.
Yeah.
Because I don't want too much empty space because like I said, I'm rotating boxes and adding a super at the same time. So go ahead.
What are your temperature differences from day to night? I know for me in March, it can get pretty cold at night. And I would think if I was playing around with the brood chamber in early March like that might provide some temperature challenges. Do you not have those challenges at night?
It's not getting extremely cold here by that time. We're usually probably 40s to 60s, something like that.
Okay.
Maybe lower 70s in March. It can do crazy things. I am running screen bottoms So, at that point in time, I still have my IPM board slid in. So they're not just open.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I got another question with your mediums.
Okay.
So with double deeps, when they make swarm cells, it's usually on the bottom of the top box, right? It's pretty easy to tip it back and see those cells.
Yeah.
Do they do that on the bottom of the top box, on the bottom of the middle box? Sometimes both. Like, where are the swarm cells typically in that setup?
Yeah, you'll rarely see me tip the bottom box. They're going to be on the middle one and the top one is where the swarm cells will be at. So,
but you'll have to check both of those boxes.
Yeah. When I start tilting boxes, I'll tilt those two. You'll rarely see me tilt a bottom box. So, the top, the middle, and the top. So that comes along, after I super up and rotate. A week or two later, I'll check again to see how the brood's doing, and usually the brood has exploded by that point. I've got lots of brood in that top box that used to be the bottom. And we're rolling. Now we're starting to get into swarm season, so it's time to start tilting boxes. So that's usually happening end of May, early April. End of March, early April. We're starting to look for swarm cells.
You talked about walking that line.
Yep. Yeah, the fine line between fat and gone.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
Now, at the same time you start tilting boxes, that's at the time that I'm getting busy. That's where a lot of the stuff I do is not very scalable. Some of the stuff I do, you're not going to do it on 100 hives. You're not going to do it on 50 or 60 hives. Where I start going in, maybe it's just according to what the temperatures are and what's going on. I might be going into hives a couple of times a week, just pulling a few frames and seeing what the brood's doing. And I'll take and I'll separate. I don't know what the fancy word for it is, but I just call it separate and brood. Now, once again, it needs to be kind of country rows. Yeah, I run three mediums for brood, unless it's a really strong hive, and then I go to a fourth one. We'll talk about that here in just a second. But yeah, I know some people, if you have they'll go in and when they separate brood, if they've got, say you got 4 frames of brood together, they'll pull it 2 and 2 and stick a drawn comb in the middle of the 4. I'll go a little bit more aggressive than that. I'll pull, if I've got 2 together, I'll pull the 2 apart and I'll drop a drawn comb between every 2. And I'll keep doing that over and over again until I get that box about 80% full of brood. And that's when I would go with the fourth medium for a brood box.
Okay.
So, but yeah, the first part of my swarm control is the rotating and adding the super. And then the second part is when you start tilting boxes and separating brood.
Now you found queen cells. What typically do you do?
If it's a capped cell, I'll just raise the white flag and I'll do a split. I've never had much good luck fighting it once I see a capped cell. So I'll go ahead and split it at that point. If I find uncapped cells, I'm going to make dang sure that I've got good evidence that the queen is still there. I think people mess up sometimes. They just go in and squish all the queen cells and they might not have a queen. But I always make sure I got good evidence of a queen, and I'll get rid of the cells unless they're capped. But once I find a capped one, it's over. I'll go ahead and split them.
So you've got 3 mediums. Will you give a frame, like each box? Will you give a frame with the cell and divide it 3 ways? How will you divide that?
It depends. If I've just got one cell, I would just do one split. If I got multiple cells, I might do multiple splits. With the mediums, it's easy to I can do 3 dirty splits. Where if I got cells, I can put cells in all 3 boxes and just split it up, and I will go from 1 hive to 3 hives. And I don't really. And
is that a dirty split using a cell? I've never heard that.
I just call it a dirty split when you really don't care where the queen is. You just take boxes and split boxes up. I mean, you could do the same thing with two deeps.
Yeah.
If you got eggs and young larvae in 2 boxes, you just take them two and make two hives. You don't
Yeah.
care which one the queen's in. But that's what I call a dirty. I don't know if that's right or not, but
you know, listening to your model, watching people like Nathan from Duck River, it really shows the benefit of having that I'll say all medium. I don't want to say all deeps. It all applies, but
right.
Those mediums are that weight conscious one, but having that fluidity of moving things back and forth really creates different options for you as a beekeeper. What are the negatives of running all mediums in your experience?
I've thought about that before, and I really can't come up with many, if any.
Like the books will say it's more expensive because you have to buy more
Yeah.
pieces of equipment. But
yeah, instead of two, 3 mediums is the same size as a double deep. So with a double deep, obviously you got 2 boxes and 20 frames, where I've got 3 boxes and 30 frames.
Right.
So yeah, there's another box and 10 more frames there. Some people
but you can buy in bulk and buy it cheaper when you're buying in bulk because you're buying all of the same box. So I mean, you can counter that argument at a certain scale.
You know, and I don't have to think about it when I run in the shop to get something. I know I'm going to get a medium box and some medium frames. Some people say it's more labor. You know, if when I'm inspecting a hive, I'm having to deal with more frames, more boxes when I'm looking for a queen. I rarely look for a queen. You know, most of the time when I do my splits, you know, I'll do a dirty split, or I'll use a frame with a cell or something, or eggs and young larvae. And I know the queen's not in that. I know which box the queen's in without finding her. But yeah, I mean, and most of the time when you're inspecting with 3 mediums, your good, strong hives, you got brood in that top box. So I'm not going in the middle one and the bottom one hardly ever, unless I've got a queen issue that I'm trying to, searching desperately for some brood somewhere. Usually broods within, in the middle of the top box, and the inspection's over, and I've only looked at one box. So, not a lot of extra labor there at that point. Some folks, if you talk to like a Fred Dunn about it, he doesn't like the mediums because your cluster of brood is going to be on more than one box. Yeah. So anytime you pull a box, you're going to break the cluster. I can't argue with that, but I've really never seen that be an issue. So I don't know. Yeah. Our winters aren't terrible around here as far as the clusters really being tight. And obviously they're not going to be tight when I'm pulling boxes. I'm not going to be pulling boxes when it's 20 degrees, 25 degrees. So I've never really found that to be an issue.
I'm so glad you brought up Fred Dunn, because that's actually my next question. You're a big Fred Dunn fan. Talk about how he's impacted you as a beekeeper. You're a moderator on his lives.
Yeah, I'm his bouncer.
You're eating dinner with him at the Bee Expo. Come on now. You sponsored him last year. How awesome is that? Clearly, you're a big fan. Right? So there you go.
He's just a good fella. He's a good friend. He helps a lot of folks. A lot of people subscribe to his channel and watch his videos. I enjoy the way he what's the good word for it? He does a lot of interesting stuff in the bee yard. He does some killer photography. We all know that. A lot better than what I do. But I just like the he's like a kid in the bee yard, experimenting with stuff and checking stuff and playing with stuff. Whether it's queen mandibular pheromone, sticking it in a tree and see how bees react to it, or
a bowler hat.
Yeah, catching a swarm with a hat. Who would have thought of that? It worked really good. Yeah. But no, we just have a good time. Me and Fred and his wife Annette and Michelle just kind of hit it off. We enjoy each other's company.
Which kind of leads me to generalize a little bit. You've been a staple at Cayman and Laurel's events. I'm not sure how long you've been going, but every time I've gone, I've seen you there. And I kind of feel like you were influenced by Cayman quite a bit as well. That kind of dead mites, healthy queens, good nutrition, that philosophy. Right. Talk about that and how you kind of you alluded a little bit of how you got into YouTube beekeeping. Who are some of your big influences besides Fred as you were getting started?
Yeah, well, early on when you first got into it, we've been to all of the events except the very first one.
Okay.
We didn't go to the first one, but we've been to all of them since then, when they were in Sevierville and then when they moved to Louisville. So, so yeah, we just missed one. Early on, obviously there wasn't as many beekeepers on YouTube as there is now. The pickings was slimmer. So, yeah, Cayman, he was one of the ones that I found early on. So yeah, he had an influence on me, Cayman and Fred. Some of the folks like Dirt Rooster, he's been around for a while. A few of them I kind of missed that were there, but I didn't find them. Like the what's the guy, the Fat Bee Man or something like that. Yappy Bee Man. A few of those I really didn't. They were there, but I didn't find them for whatever reason. So what's Philip said over here? The highlight of the beekeeping career was the pizza dinner at Nobby 2 years ago. Yeah, we were like bees in a beehive in that one. That was we were jam packed in that little pizza joint. That was fun.
Did you say Fat Bee Man was at the first event?
No, I was just saying that he was one of the YouTubers.
Oh, gotcha.
Back then.
All right.
I kind of missed out on. I didn't find him. So, but yeah, Cayman and Fred were probably the first two biggies. Fred's been around a long time. He started out doing the chicken thing. So, and then he switched over to chickens and bees, mostly bees now, but he still plays with his chickens, of course. So,
all right. So talk about a little bit. Go ahead, Todd.
First of all, I apologize, Keith. I had a list of questions and they're sitting on my desk at work. So and believe me, it was I can't remember hardly any of what I had on there, but one of the things I do remember is this: every morning, my routine is the same. I get up, I usually at 6 or a little before. I go downstairs, I make coffee, get coffee, sit on the couch, and I turn my phone on. And 99 days out of 100, the first alert I get is a YouTube alert, and it's always you. And I'm like, holy cow, when does this guy sleep? Is he like what do they call it? Posting the videos for releasing a later date or whatever that's called?
Scheduling.
And I'm like, every day. It's every day. I mean, like clockwork.
Yeah.
Like me with a cup of coffee in my hand at 6 a.m, I see, another video come up from you, and it's always the first alert. So that's a comment. But I've always been amazed at the amount of honey you make every single year. And I mean, it's just crazy how much you make with what you have. And I'm all, you know what? Sometimes, like this year, for example, I'm like, oh crap, I got to look at Keith with all of his bazillion gallons of honey, and I'm like making drops, but I'm just kidding. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, share the wealth. Send some over here.
So how much of that is your location and how much of that is your management strategy?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes and yes.
I agree. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I'm the first video of the day, Todd. I appreciate that. But, but you're right now. I'm trying to do I do a short every day and hopefully 1 or 2 videos a week plus the chat.
You only do 1 short a day? Because I could swear you do like 3 or 4.
Normally, no. If I'm doing parades or events or something with the Halftrack or doing things, I'll pop more than one a day. Gosh, a couple of years ago, I was doing 3 shorts every day, plus at least one video a week.
Yeah.
So, that was insane. I'm not sure why I did that, but I'm retired and walking around. I just, a lot of my shorts are just stuff that I think is cool. Things that, I'm easily amazed. If I see a turtle walking around or a spider or a.
Well, there was that one implement that did the tree grow through it.
Yeah.
It grew through it. It was
a farm implement out in the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that. We've been here for over 20 years now, and I still find stuff in the woods that I've never seen before. So that's always fun. But why do I make so much honey? Obviously, I mean, I always say the tulip poplars. They're if you've never seen the picture of a tulip poplar from the sky, you need to search that out. They're like a. They're Lord.
We got you.
Diameter might be 4 or 5 foot, and the tree is close to 100, 125 foot tall. And all of them aren't that big, but they all have a bazillion blooms. So we've got in this area, there's, I don't know what the number is, tens of thousands of poplar trees, and every one's got thousands of blooms in it. And so when they bloom, man, the bees just go crazy and they bring it in really fast. So that usually starts around the end of April, middle of May, sometime in that time frame. I put my supers on early to catch an early flow, which a lot of folks I don't think even know exists around here, because a lot of people I know, they don't super up that early. But we have I claim it's mostly the maples and henbit, dead nettle, that sort of thing. A lot of the cornfields that are cut, they'll come up and just turn purple early in the spring, and the bees just love that stuff. But that's the lightest honey that I make, is that first pull, which my first pull this year was April the 15th. So,
holy cow.
Yeah.
So let's talk about frames and boxes and how you go about doing that. As you put your supers on, do you put one on? Do you put two on at that initial time?
Usually the first round, when I rotate the boxes, I'll just put one super on. That's enough.
And then and then you're adding another. Like, how many do you add before you start pulling off? Like, talk about that rotation of adding and taking out.
And when you add, is it up? Is it, are you, what's it, under supering or over supering?
Yeah.
I always tell people the same thing on the under super, over super. I under super until I get tired of doing it.
Yeah.
And then I over super. I think under supering is probably a good thing, but yeah, I get tired of doing it. So, I've never done a test to see what you gain or lose by doing it. But as far as the number, Brian, I'll usually this year I've had 3 supers on every hive. So with 20 production hives, so that gave me 60. I had 60 supers out on 20 hives.
And then as you go to pull honey off, are you pulling boxes off, or are you cherry picking frames?
What I usually do, I like using the skateboards when I harvest the honey. I do that for the most part. If I run out of escapes, I'll use fume boards, but it's mostly escapes and a blower. But I never pull all my supers off. I always leave at least one super on the hive. I always leave the ladies somewhere to put more nectar. What I usually do when I go to put escape boards on, I'll cherry pick some frames and pull all the honey frames up into the top 1 or 2 boxes. So that one box that I leave on under the escape is fairly empty. So now with the way I pull it, I'm rarely pulling full supers. You can tell that by some of my numbers. If you look at the number of supers I pull and the amount of honey I get, I might pull 40 supers, but I might just get what, 600 pounds.
Cool.
So, but still, that's quite a bit.
Yeah. So you're saying if you pull 40 supers, you're not getting 40 supers worth of honey. You might get 30 supers worth of honey because they're not full.
Yeah, or even 20.
Yeah.
But I never let my supers get full.
Okay.
I always pull them before they get full. So I think if you let your supers get plumb full, you've probably left some honey on the table because the ladies probably didn't have anywhere to put it.
Yeah.
And are those 9 frames in there?
Yeah, I put 9 frames in a 10 frame box. That seems to work well, and it works out good for my. I've just got a 9 frame extractor, so that works out good. A box to a run.
Yeah.
So everything matches up nicely.
See, for me, I think this is one of the huge differences in the areas that we keep bees. When I put supers on my colonies, I don't think there's a strong enough flow where they're going to fill out a box like they're doing for you to be able to do that. Mine will start in the middle. They'll start capping off the middle almost before they even start on the edges. And I'm working an 8 frame box as opposed to a 10 frame box. So I can see, like, and there's no way there's enough nectar that comes in throughout the season for me to be able to pull 5 times. So I'm familiar with the strategy that you use because I've done it on a frame to frame basis, not so much a box to box basis. So as I was trying to get ready for markets and get honey on the table in May, I'd go out to my supers and pull frames that are just individual frames I'd cherry pick that are capped off or close to capped off and ready to spin. And in those places, I'd either put foundationless, and that's where I'd get my comb honey from, or I'd put foundation, or if I had drawn comb, I'd do that. But I was cherry picking frames, and I'd cherry pick 30 frames, and then I'd go home and spin them out because my extractor was a 30 frame extractor. And then I'd take those 30 wet frames and go to my next series of yards till I got 30 more frames. So I just created this awesome rotational system. So I totally get this idea that, excuse me, if you put wet frames back on a colony during a flow, it feels like those bees are going to fill them out so much quicker. And I even wonder if under supering is more effective with wet frames than just dry drawn out frames, because they're ready to be filled and they're just stimulating the bees to work them. It's interesting though, how we've got, because of our different environments, we've developed different strategies, but basically the same concept, you know?
Yeah. I've thought about that, under supering with wets. I kind of lean towards the under supering works better if you're trying to lure the bees up into that box. Now, if it's a wet super, you don't have to do much luring. You know, they love those wet supers. So, but if it's a dry super, maybe under supering would help you more. If I put that dry super under a wet super, you know, they're trying to get to that wet, so they got to go through that dry one to get there. So, but yeah, just for an example, I pulled up I got it in my phone here what my pulls were. My first pull was on April the 15th. It was 21 supers and 25 gallons, 300 pounds, 25 gallons. But then I turned around. My second pull was only 10 days later. It was on the, if I can mash the right button here, it was on the 25th. And it was.
Do you have a brood minder?
No, that's on my toy list for this year.
So you're just using observation to know when your flows are starting and stopping?
Yeah, I'm just going around picking up on the rear of hives and picking up on supers. But the second honey pull was 10 days later, April the 25th, 33 supers and 500 pounds. So, like I said, once the poplar flow hits, it rolls. The third
Do you have
pull
a problem in getting rid of all this quantity every year?
Well, I start going to the third pull was May the 6th. So I went from April 25th to May the 6th, and it was almost the same amount, another 500 pounds. Yeah, but my farmers markets start in the middle of May.
Oh, okay.
So since the middle of May, I've been doing 3 markets a week. So I've already done 40 markets this year.
Wow.
So yeah, I do a lot of markets to sell the honey, and plus I wholesale some buckets.
I thought you were retired.
Just tired.
Just tired. It's got to fund his retirement.
Oh, I love this.
Yeah.
Michelle likes for me to stay busy. It keeps me out of trouble. I restored those military things, and that was a lot of work. But yeah, beekeeping is great. I was an old industrial maintenance guy for a little over 40 years. The last 20, I was a maintenance manager or a facility manager. So I've always worked with my hands and scheduled and planned and fixed stuff and looked for the future. And, and beekeeping is a lot of the same stuff I was doing at work, as far as, planning and scheduling and working, and you get to use your hands making boxes and playing in the bee yard. I'm outside all day like a kid. So beekeeping checked a lot of boxes for me as far as a retirement gig. Let's see, going to have another pull in the fall. I usually don't have a fall flow around here. We have tons of goldenrod, but I think it's the wrong kind. I've supered up a couple of years saying I'm going to make some fall honey, and that was just a lot of work for nothing. I've been checking my hives. There's some honey out there now. It's not fall honey. It's just, I don't know where it came from, but we'll just have to wait and see. When I get ready to, I pretty much left a super on all my hives right now because some of the hives were so big. I go for that big fat hive thing. I try not to split. I like lots of bees. So,
Todd, did you hear that flex just then? I pulled all that honey and I left a super of honey on all my colonies.
I didn't say it was full. I left an empty super. Left an kind of empty super on all the hives, just so the ladies would have some room. I didn't want to. I hate to squish all the bees down into 3 boxes. If you got 3 supers on top of 3, and you go from 6 to 3, that's a big change, especially as hot as it is.
Yeah. So, now I'm a big believer in production colonies and support colonies, and Keith, you are as well. The mechanic in you comes out though, because you call your support colonies spare parts.
Spare parts.
Talk about how important that is to your sustainable apiary, because this is a piece I think a lot of people don't think about. They don't think about, like, when you buy chickens, you can't buy 20 chickens and then when all those 20 chickens die, buy 20 more chickens. You got to constantly be buying new chickens to be replacing the chickens before they die.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think beekeepers get that. So talk about how you use your spare parts in your apiary.
Yeah, that's...
where do they come from, first of all?
Well, a lot of times that's my, I said I've got, I think I got up to a maximum of 32 this year. I hit 37 last year, and I didn't like that at all. 32 this year, 20 production hives. So that gave me my 12 hives. I told you that's the hives I play with, my splits and swarms and the bees I make for next year. What included in that number are my resource hives. And I usually call my nukes my resource hives, little 5-frame nukes. Most of the time they're either 3 or 4 stories high. And of course they're all mediums too. I like when I do splits, I like to put splits into nukes because nukes grow so fast. It's just a great way to get your split started instead of putting that, especially if you're not doing real big splits, putting a small split in a 10-frame box. That's just a nuke. They grow a lot quicker, or in what I've seen, they grow better for me. But I'll usually have a resource hive for every 5 hives, something like that. So if I've got 25 hives, I've usually got like 5 nukes for spare parts, and they'll they're already coming in handy now. I talked about it a little bit in the chat over on my channel tonight. it seems like I always have trouble after the honey season. Some of my strong hives made a lot of honey. Everything was great, a bazillion bees. And then all at once I'll lose a queen. Something happens at the end of the season. I don't know what happens. You go into it and there's not a queen in sight. You got no brood. You got a whole lot of bees, but no queen. And especially in that instance, I find these little resource hives to be great, because instead of worrying about queen acceptance, trying to get a huge hive to accept a queen, I just drop the whole nuke in it. I'll put, that'll be 15 or 20 frames out of a nuke, plus the queen, all the brood, the whole shebang. They get the whole nuke dumped in them. So, and as far as I know, I've never lost a queen when I did that. There were enough friendly allies and I guess pheromones of the queen in that many bees that I dump in that bigger hive. It just works. So, but yeah, my resource hives, my spare parts, that stuff is that's gold. That's
yeah.
I've already used a couple of them up this year after honey season. A couple of them have gotten so big. My last video was moving a nuke into a regular 10 frame box because it was getting so big. But it's a good time to do that. I don't have any trouble overwintering nukes here, but it's probably, I guess, easier to overwinter a 10 frame than a 5 frame. Less worry. But
when you say you have no problem overwintering a nuke, what does that look like? Are you overwintering over a double screen board? Are you overwintering three boxes high? What does that typical small nuke look like that you overwinter?
It's usually going to be 3 high. Okay. It's not over a screen board. It's just a standalone little three hive nuke, maybe 4 high.
Yeah,
but usually 3. Because if I put a feeder on top and it was 4, that would take me to 5 high, and that gets a little wobbly. So yeah, most of them are probably 3 going into winter, and it works just fine. The little hives come through winter without any trouble, as long as you got plenty of bees. Do I newspaper them together? I've never used newspaper. I've always
you just throw them on there, let them
throw them on there,
sort it out,
roll.
Yeah.
Jamie Ellis has a talk. I don't remember the name of it, but essentially it's like 95% of all of your problems in your colony can be solved with a nuke is the thesis of the talk. And he talks about all these different problems in the colony leading up to, and here's your solution. That 5 frame nuke, that laying mated queen, doing its job in those frames of other bees that are just like her are going to be accepted in that queenless colony because she's already doing what she's supposed to be doing. She's smelling the way she needs to. That's a strategy that I use very often, and a strategy that I think that you use often too, that you're kind of alluding to, is that idea of kind of condensing your apiary in the fall, and you're using a lot of those support colonies to solve any problems in the fall, so you're not having dead outs in the winter or having to solve issues in the spring. So you're solving future issues by having these support colonies, and you're minimizing your work and expenses by reducing the mouths that you have to feed, the amount of patties you have to buy, the amount of treatments you have to do over the winter, by going from 40 to 30, having that skill set to be able to take those 30 or even 25 in the spring and build them back up what you need to, I think is a really essential skill set to have. It's not just a colony that expands and contracts throughout the year. A healthy apiary can do that as well with wise management from the beekeeper. And a lot of those support colonies, those young queens that you have in reserve to address any old queen issues or any other colony issues, are really essential to keep that idea of production colonies. So for me, I think Philip asked it, maybe it was in your chat, what's the difference between a production colony and a support colony? For me, a production colony is going to produce. It's going to make me money. It's going to produce me a nuke in the spring, at least a nuke in the spring, and it's going to produce me a honey harvest. And I spend usually my first 3 inspections in the spring establishing, are you going to be a production colony, or are these resources that I'm going to end up using for what's going to be a production colony? Maybe it's one of those small nukes that I overwintered that I want to double up really fast to get ready for that flow. Maybe I'm taking that box and that failing queen and putting it on top of that one. So it's that idea of constantly thinking, what is the job of this colony going to do for me? And what is the job of that colony going to do for me? And really recognizing the fact that this is essentially a pile of parts, right? A pile of a junkyard in your backyard for when you need that piece to make whatever you have work and perform the function that you need it to function for.
Yeah. And I really don't use the queens that often. You know, a lot of times you'll just, you know, I do all walk away splits. You ask about how it made me sustainable. I haven't bought any bees or queens, and I don't remember when. I don't make queens per se, but I do walk away splits to make all my queens, and it works well for me. So, but yeah, most of the time with the resource hives during the honey season, I really don't have that many queen issues while they're making honey. They just roll. You know, you might want to pull a little brood. Well, you have to pull some brood out of some of these resource hives because they'll grow too quick on you and they'll swarm just like a big hive. So you got to pull some brood out of them and stick them in one of your production hives that's maybe not quite as strong or whatever you're doing. I really don't end up, I call it nuking a hive, where you take the whole nuke and put it in a hive until usually after honey season, like right now, is when I seem to have some screwy queen issues for no apparent reason. So, but yeah, the spare parts, I've had people ask me about that. It's like, well, why do you have to have separate hives for that? Just use one of your hives that you've got for this. Why do you have to call them resource hives? And what popped in my head when they said that was, well, if you go to a car dealer, they've got a whole car lot full of new cars they could pull parts off of, but they've still got a spare parts department. Yeah. They don't want to ruin all their good cars for spare parts. Yeah. So it's kind of the same thing. My production hives, I want to keep them rolling. You know, I don't want them to miss a lick. So whatever it takes from the parts department to keep them going. You know, I don't want to pull a part off of a good running car to put in another one.
Yep. And I learned that quick. I'd rather have 3 colonies that are kicking butt than 5 colonies that are just doing okay. You know, if my goal is to produce and make money off of my bees, that's a more effective way to do that. You talked about being financially sustainable as well, not spending a lot of money on bees, and I think you're fairly successful of avoiding the gadget trap that many beekeepers can fall into. One of the things that's a benefit of this sideliner scale that you're at is that your honey house, you can get away with a pretty simple honey house, whereas at some point you hit this ceiling where you've got to scale up. Describe the simplicity of your honey house. Now, I know you have a drying room, which is a separate thing. Let's not talk about that. Let's just talk about your honey house. What's your honey house set up?
Yeah, well, the honey house amounts to a bay of one of my garages. I have to move a car out of the way and stick it in another place, and I just leave that garage open all year for extracting honey. Now, a key to being able to do that, you're back to the multiple pulls. You know, I'm not dealing with 200 supers all at once, trying to run them through a process. You know, the most I ran through at one time was around 40 this year, 40, 41. And I think I can't remember the time. That took me 6 or 7 hours to do 40 supers. But all I've got is a 9-frame Hilco extractor, electric. Used to have a 4-frame hand crank. But after I made 50 gallons one year and my arms looked like Popeye, and I was like, we got to do something different with that. So I just got a little 9-frame extractor. Matches up with 9 frames to a box. I got a little Hilco their smallest uncapping tank, I think it's 24-inch uncapping tank.
27.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That helps me out. That's another conversation we can talk about, uncapped versus capped honey. But
I was going to ask that question.
Yeah, that's a good one. But yeah, that's my setup. I use the little 2-piece stainless strainers that everybody helps. I've got 2 pairs. When one clogs up, I switch buckets and use another one while I clean that one. It's never been that big a deal to me. Just filling up 5-gallon buckets out of the extractor. So a very simple thing. But like I say, I think the multiple pulls is why I can get away with that, because I'm never dealing with a huge amount of honey all at one time. I've got, that huge amounts divided into 4 or 5 chunks. So
and you reduce your workload by pulling frames with minimal cappings, if cappings at all. That reduces the wax that you get back, but that also reduces your uncapping time. When you do uncap frames, what's your preferred way to do so?
I've got one of the big Hilco saber knives. Have you seen that? The serrated.
Love it. Love that.
About 6 feet long. It's very flexible. That thing's great.
Best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah. I'll use that, if the cappings, if they're as they should be with the 9 frames, they should stick out, and they're easy to cut the cappings off of, and then those drain out obviously in the tank. If the cappings aren't to where you can cut them, the best thing that works for me, I use one of those big fat meat serving forks to scratch the cappings with. I've tried the little spiky rollers and all the different things, and man, just that old meat fork just works great for me to scratch the cappings, because you just want to scratch them enough to let the honey out.
Yeah.
You don't have to destroy the cells. You just want to open them up.
Yeah.
So, but I generate a pitiful amount of wax though.
So maybe that's a drawback of your system. If you were to look at drawbacks, if wax was important,
it's enough that I can. I'll have enough wax probably to wax the foundation that I buy next year, maybe. But but no, I don't generate a whole lot of wax. But I, uncapped honey. When I was telling you those numbers earlier, they're, you saw from April the 15th to the 25th. What they gained. It seems like when the flow is really hitting hard around here, the bees capping honey is just not on their to-do list. They're just putting it away. And if I go in, I use my refractometer out in the bee yard quite a bit, to take samples and see what's going on before I pull. I want to have some idea before I pull, and then do a better check once I get them to the garage. But if I check with a refractometer, and I'm running anywhere from 19 and a half, maybe even hit 20, all the way down to some of the cap stuff being 17, 16.5, whatever, I'll pull it. And then, like you say, I've got the drying room I can use to get it to wherever I want it. But extracting uncapped honey is so much easier than having to deal with cappings. Especially when it comes out of the drying room and you've got the honey at about 90 degrees and it's all uncapped, you can roll.
and especially when you're a one-man show too.
Yeah.
So when you're using that refractometer and testing your honey, is there a particular place in the box that you're testing that you think might be the most highest water content? Are you doing the shake test with frames as well?
Yeah, the shake test is the easy one. If you don't pass the shake test, then I'm probably not going to mess with it. If I do a hard shake and I cover the bees up, which they love it when you do that. Yeah. It's like manna from heaven. Yeah. But if it shakes out that easy, I'm not going to pull it. So, but if it won't shake, I'll test it. Usually I'll test towards the outer parts of the boxes, because what's in the center has probably been there the longest. So I'll go more towards the edges and just do a quick hive tool on the refractometer. You can check it really quick. Going through several hives just to get an idea of what I got. And I'm like, yeah, it's time to roll. So,
are you using any strategies to help the help the bees dehydrate the honey in the colony? Like, are you staggering your supers, or are you creating any
that's one thing.
ventilation?
I've never tried that. A lot of people do it, and I've always said, "Man, I need to try that," but I've never tried that. I do. I run screen bottom boards, and obviously in the summer the IPM boards are out, so the screens are open, and I also run screen inner covers. So I've got screen bottoms and screen inner covers
all year long. Every colony?
No. The screen inner covers only come in the spring. I'll run a regular inner cover. Well, I have to run I run Hive Alive fondant patties in the winter, so I've got to use a solid inner cover with a hole in it, with a patty on top.
Okay.
So the screen inner covers come in the spring, and then if we suddenly have a dip where the temperatures get low, I can slide my IPM boards in the bottom, and I can put another piece of that corrugated plastic over the top inner cover. Once again, we're back to what I do is not scalable. You wouldn't take the time to do all that if you had a couple of hundred hives.
Yeah.
I can do it on 20.
And that's what the sweet spot of where you're at really allows you to do. You can do some small scale. I don't want to call them like backyard beekeeper kind of strategies, but the kind of strategies where you can pay attention to every single colony, where with 100, sorry, that was my cat. If you had 100, it would be a little harder to do. Even your honey house, you're at a scale where you can keep that honey house really simple, having really, you're talking about two basic tools, your extractor and your uncapping tank.
That's it.
And that's it. And that keeps your costs down. That keeps your storage space down.
Yeah, that stuff's all paid for.
Yeah. So when you go back to Keith Spillman saying, have fun with your bees, you can see this entire management strategy really embodies that, where you're not overwhelming yourself with work. You're keeping life simple. It's really a model that I think people should really consider, really. And how did you, because I think this is what we get, myself included, we get those big eyes. We think about how much we want to grow. How do you temper that? Because you've got the bug. I know you've got the fever. How do you temper that fever with the right rational decisions? Like every swarm could be a new colony, could be another 50 pounds, could be another this, could be another that.
Yeah. I don't know that you totally temper it. If I see a swarm in the air, we didn't have many swarms around this year. I put all my boxes up. I probably didn't catch but 3 or 4 swarms this year, and probably at least 2 of them were mine. But if I think they're mine, I still want to get them back in a box. You still got that mentality. But I knew of a lot of swarms in the area that I didn't go chasing. Because I didn't. If my hive count gets too high during the bee season, before I'm starting to combine and do some stuff like I am right now, I just have to sell some hives, which I don't mind doing that. You can make some good money. I sell complete hives, but we've talked about this before. I have a bad habit of, when I sell bees, I sell them to people that have never had bees.
Yeah.
So with the hive comes my help.
Yeah.
You can't do that but so many times before it'll run you completely bonkers. You start selling hives to 15 or 20 people and tell them to call you anytime they got a problem, and you'll run to their house if they need you. That ain't going to work. So I've got I think 5 people right now that I'm helping, that I've sold bees to, that are doing good. Some are graduating to the point they've got their own extractor. They just call me. They'll make a picture of what they see and just ask what they think, what I think they should do. And some people I still have to go down and help them do pretty much everything. So some people are wanting to grow, and some people don't want to grow. They want 2 hives, and they don't want any more than 2 hives. But some of the ones that are growing, they're getting to the point that you were just talking about. I've got one fella, he's doing great. He's got his own extractor. He got his own vaporizer, doing his mite treatments. But this year we took him from, I helped him with his splits. We went from 6 to 11. And I think he ended up with He's got more than that now, maybe around 13. So then I'm like, well, what are we going to do next year? We're going to 26. He's like, no.
Yeah.
Because he made a lot of honey this year. That's kind of I don't want this to sound the wrong way, but all the people that I help, I manage their hives exactly like I manage mine. So if it works right, they make a lot of honey.
Yeah.
And sometimes they make more honey than they know what to do with.
Yeah.
Because this fella with the 11 hives, he's made north of 50 gallons, and his wife gives it all away. She puts it in little half pint jars. Now, how many half pints is 50 gallons? A whole lot. That's how many it is.
Wow.
And you can only give away so much honey. I don't care how popular you are. So yeah, you'll get yourself in a pickle. Now next year he don't want 100 gallons with put in half pint jars. That could be
a lot.
You talked about your buddy getting a vaporizer. You have a vaporizer. That's your main mite treatment strategy, right? You do the OAV every 4 or 5 days, 5 times.
Yeah, I just got through doing that. I'll finish up tomorrow. The folks that I help, I'll finish up 3 of them tomorrow with their 5th treatment. But yeah, usually starting the end of July, early August, I'll do the every 4 or 5 days, 5 rounds of OAV. With running the 3 mediums is the same as the double deep, so I'll use 8 grams. I use the slide out IPM board so I can count my mite drop after I do each 24 hours after each round, so I can see what's going on. And that's all I've done for the past 3 or 4 years. I had one of the early Larabi plug in the wall vaporizers, and I finally upgraded to a battery powered one.
Yeah.
Last year. I should have done it a lot sooner. The battery powered one's a whole lot better than the plug in the wall one.
Yes, it is.
A whole lot quicker. And when I'm going out helping people, I'm not having to carry an inverter around and hook to the battery and run the extension cord. And so battery is great. But yeah, OAV, I've not, early on, when I was losing bees, I wasn't doing anything. When I first started not losing bees, I was using Apivar.
Okay.
It's probably about the easiest one there is out there. But that was before I did a lot of reading and learned some stuff that I didn't know about it that I don't really like. So I haven't used that in many years.
So just to clarify, annually you do 1 round of OAV in the late summer, fall.
No, a little bit more than that. I'll do a round in late July, early August, where we're at right now.
Yep.
I'll do another round late September, early October.
Okay.
And then I'll do single treatments in November, December, January.
Like around the solstice?
Yeah. And that's about the least amount of brood I'm going to have. I don't think I ever go broodless around here, but that'll be a very low amount. And usually when I'm counting my mite drops in the wintertime, when I'm doing my single treatments, mite drops are just nothing. So I'm pretty clean going into winter, and then clean going into spring.
Yeah.
So,
but here's another great example. I want to hammer this point home. This is a strategy I could not use with the way my apiary is set up, because I've got 100 colonies in like 12 different yards. So to be able to do that every 5 days, I just wouldn't physically be able to do that. Right. But the fact that,
I'm working on my notes. You can't read it, but this is my notes for that thing I'm doing in Charlotte in October. The first line is, "My way is not very scalable."
Yeah.
But it's not. I'm even doing the OAV treatments when it's 95 degrees or even 85 degrees early in the morning with 100% humidity with your respirator on. I think 30 hives is too many. That's just it's a rough job. So you're doing that 5 times. for one round.
Crazy.
So, but it's working for me. So I I've really got no complaints. I might be forced into doing something different at some point, but for right now, it works.
And that's the kind of thing where could you imagine doing that with a wand and a battery? Oh my gosh, that sometimes the technology.
I bought one of those things. That was the most useless.
Yeah,
I don't want to use any French here, but you pull it out and there'd be dead bees in the little pan where you just cooked a bunch of them. And I was always afraid I was going to catch a hive on fire.
I've scorched a frame or two, so I've pulled frames out and they're like browned on the bottom, and you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Because you know how flammable beeswax can be.
I think that's a real market niche that Larabi needs to fill. There needs to be a low-cost vaporizer, a whole lot better than a wand, but it don't cost the person that's got 2 or 3 hives $400 or $500.
Yeah.
There needs to be a $200 vaporizer.
Yeah.
And he could sell a bazillion of them. Because I have folks that have just a few hives and they're like, man, I can't spend $500 for 2 hives. So
I think their cheapest one now is a little bit over 300, which I think is closer to that reachable range for the backyard beekeeper. But again, I want to demonstrate that your model shows the backyard beekeeper that one tool could be kind of all you need or not much more, and there's that huge upfront cost of that tool. But then the cost of oxalic acid after that is very small in comparison to the other mite treatments out there. So,
that's the big thing with OA. Once you buy the vaporizer, then the powder's cheap.
Yeah,
that's a good thing.
All right, Keith, I know it has been a late day for you. This is like your 3rd talk you've had today. You're talking about what'd you say? It was old vehicles earlier today before your chat.
Oh, I just said that having the 2 chats was like when I have do an event with the Halftrack where I talk all day about Bertha or the Jeep.
Yeah,
and I end up hoarse at the end of the day. So, but no, this has been fun. I
wanted to put you on the other side of the interview for a little bit instead of being the interviewer. Be the interviewee. And again, I want to just mention that your model, I think, is a really is a model that can work for a lot of people, that they can get a lot of they can use this hobby to pay for themselves, or they can use this hobby to pay for itself. You talked about that in one of your chats about how this is the first hobby you've ever had that wasn't a money pit. So if you're wise about it, you can definitely create a good small scale sideliner business that can really give you a lot of benefits on the back end. Keith has plenty of voice and energy. Yeah, you can go all night.
But I think folks do need to. You can make a lot of honey without a whole lot of hives. So don't. If you're after X amount of honey, don't think that I've got to have 50 hives to do it. If you tend to them right, you might can do it with 20 hives and save yourself a whole lot of work. You just have to be set up a particular way for it to work right. So
now, you don't have a hive lifter. You're lifting all those boxes yourself. You do have a tractor though, so those boxes are going on something that you can then drive it back to.
I'll load the supers up on I got a pallet that I set on my forks on the tractor, and I can bring them down to the garage and then tote the wets back up to the yard. So that comes in very handy. But
do you think a hive lifter would be in your future?
The way my hives are right now, it would be hard to use it because they're on some pretty uneven ground, and my rows are a little bit too close together. I would have to do some rearranging. Who knows? It could be. I've thought of rigging up a thing for the tractor to use the tractor for the hive lifter.
Sure.
Who knows? Right now, I don't have any trouble with it, especially once again, we're back to the pulling multiple times, even running the mediums, my mediums, well, I have a few of them that'll weigh 40, 45 pounds, but you can max a medium out up close to probably 60, but I don't have any that heavy. Most of mine are going to be around 20, 25 pounds, something like that when I pull them, maybe 30. So yeah, I can still handle that for now anyway.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Todd, do you have any last thoughts?
Oh. No, except I wish I had more of Keith's honey, to sell. That's all I keep thinking. It's like, man, am I going to see another video of Keith and how much honey he makes today, with my cup of coffee? No, I'm kidding. I love their videos.
Yeah.
No, I just wish I had the opportunity like you do where you're at. I'm in a different place. It's not a desert, but it's got its challenges, and I haven't zeroed in on it yet. Mother Nature's really fickle around here, so I could plan it, this way next year, and then something else happens, and it throws a wrench in everything, timing, everything.
Yeah, we're definitely farmers. We can't control a lot of the things that affect us. I think I mentioned earlier, I think a lot of getting my honey from the trees, that's something different for us. Even talking to Glade out in Utah, on some of the chats, it's interesting to him how much of our honey comes out of the trees around here.
Yeah,
where a lot of the honey in many places are coming from bushes and flowers or and clover. It's not coming out of the trees.
Yeah.
The good thing about trees is that, the big trees have really deep roots, and if you've got creeks and springs and stuff around them, like I said, all the water don't come from above.
Yeah.
So, that kind of helps even out things for me. So, yeah.
Well, I like it.
Last week, Eric came to the Peach Festival in Lafayette and brought me a couple of jars, from his trip to Europe, but also one of his jars from his first extraction from his bees. He lives about 40 minutes north of me, and the difference in honey is amazing. And I knew it was going to be different because he lives up in like farming country where there's a lot of alfalfa. So you can see the dark alfalfa honey. Even my yards on this side of town, like I get that whole tree and not tree landscape because I have bees in both areas. It's really interesting to see the differences for sure.
Yeah. I see it around here. I help a lady up in a little place called Hamptonville. It's up in the western part of the county. A lot more agricultural up there, a lot more clover early in the year, a lot more henbit, dead nettle. And she actually makes honey in her hives that first pull quicker than I do. And hers is always a lot lighter than mine is. Where I'm down here, a lot less agriculture around here, a lot more trees, and then and she's probably in a straight line 15 miles from me. And then you can go a little bit northwest, probably 20 miles in a straight line, 25 maybe. And she's making ciderwood, a whole nother animal. So yeah, like you say, it's amazing how much it changes. Beekeeping is very local. We say that over and over. Honey making is very local. So but fun.
That's crazy.
Keith, what's next for you? What's next in the bee yard?
Well, I just got through with a round of mite treatments. I've got to combine a nuke tomorrow that's getting too big, just like the video I made that I put out today where I put a nuke in a 10 frame box. I'm going to do the same thing again tomorrow with one. I'm looking at going into winter, 25, 26 hives, something like that. Yeah. I think last year I had about the same amount, maybe 23, 24. I lost a couple over winter, real small ones that we had, last year was a bad winter for us. We had a lot more single digits and teens than what's normal. But all my big hives, they did just fine. A couple of small ones, they just didn't have enough bees to just keep the cluster warm, and they didn't make it. They usually would have, but they couldn't take those single digits and teens night after night. So, but yeah, going to winter 25, 26, not really change a thing, do next year exactly what I did this year. Unless something forces me to do something different. No intentions.
One part of your business we didn't talk about at all is how you move that honey. You've got 3 markets that you do throughout the year. When do they end?
One ends the last Tuesday in September, and the other one goes, I think, a week longer. So the first week in October, something like that.
Wow. I get the market grind. I know what that feels like. Have you gotten to that point yet where you're looking towards the end?
Oh, yeah. 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 Because like I said, I've already done 40 markets this year. So,
and of that 2,500 pounds of honey, how much of that have you already sold?
I think I've got about 14 buckets left, something like that.
Okay.
So, there have been some bucket sales in there. All that didn't go through the market. I do sell some, I'll call it semi-wholesale.
Yeah.
Not totally wholesale on the buckets. But I've moved a lot. I've moved a lot of honey this year. It's
nice.
It takes a lot of time to do that. You know how much time markets take. So doing 3 a week every week takes several hours. So but once again, pulling it the way I do, I just jar it as I go. Pulling in April, that gives me honey where I can start the markets in May. I always sell out every year. So I've got to have that early pull or I don't have anything to sell in May. So getting that first pull is always kind of a sigh of relief because I know I can make the first markets. But
so now you and Michelle retired the exact same year.
Same day.
Wow. Holy cow. What a celebration that must have been. Yeah. Holy cow. So we know what you're doing with your retirement. It doesn't look like Michelle helps out with the bees. What is she doing with her time? Right? We see you in the shed all the time. You're in the workshop. You're out walking around. What's she doing while you're out doing all this stuff?
There's one video I might need to revisit that video because it's hilarious. She was going to be my camera person for a video.
Oh yeah.
And it was a swarm. It was a swarm hanging under a swarm box out at the end of the driveway. And it was kind of my fault. She was a good distance off making the video. And I kind of walked over to her, and you know how the bees kind of follow you around when you're doing stuff. And suddenly the camera, all you can see is it's looking at her feet and she's running away. All you can see is her feet. And then when I edited, I had to say, okay, my lovely assistant had to run away. And so the rest of the video, you'll have me. So that was about the end of her actual beekeeping career. I just tell her she's too sweet. The bees like her too much. So she does help me with the labeling of jars.
Okay.
The labeling and some of the bottling. So, but she just don't work in the bee yard.
Does she have hobbies that keeps her busy while you're busy doing your hobbies?
She's the crafts lady. She ran a craft store for a while. So anything that's got to do with knitting, cross stitching, she could spin her own yarn. She got the spinners, the looms, anything to do with crafty stuff. She's made candles, made soap. So nice. She does all that kind of fun stuff. I've got a shop and she's got the upstairs.
Yeah.
So around lunchtime every day we go our separate ways. That's a Journey song, isn't it?
Separate ways. Yeah.
So yeah, we both got hobbies.
Nice. Well, I'll be looking forward to seeing you at the Bee Expo. We can pretty much guarantee you're going to be there. I don't even have to ask. You're part of that crew that we love seeing there every single year. I remember the first time saying hi to you at the Crown Plaza in the hallway. I was like, that's Keith Spillman. I know that ponytail anywhere.
I think you were the first person that ever kind of recognized me. That was cool. That was
nice.
So, we'll be at Nobby. Looking forward to that. That's such a fun event. Getting to, we see each other all year long, but you don't get to shake hands but once a year. So it's kind of a special time. It's pretty cool.
That's right.
So looking forward to that.
Michael Palmer's going to be there this year. They're starting to announce the speakers, so it's really cool. So starting to get close. I feel like the information's going to start rolling out slowly about the Bee Expo. So
bigger,
you know it.
Vendor floor this year.
That's what it sounds like. Bigger and better for sure.
So
well,
Todd, what do you have going next in your bee yard, Todd?
I'm actually going to be pulling honey.
Woo! Nice.
I've had some honey out there. Bigger colonies have kept it under wraps, So last week there were several heavy boxes out there, but I wasn't ready to pull yet, and it was 107 last week, and I really didn't have the gumption in me to deal with the heat and pull in heavy boxes. So I left them on there. But this week it's cooled down, and so I'll be taking them out. And then some of those are actually my medium boxes. So I'll have some medium combs ready for next year.
Nice.
So that's about all I'm doing. There's not a whole bunch this time of year. Just kind of waiting to see what the blue curl is going to do, and that will determine if I really have to feed or not. And if it comes in, I'm good. But if it doesn't, I'm feeding. I'm close to that point right now. So Mother Nature has to make up her mind pretty quickly. I know with my luck, what's going to happen is I'm going to say, okay, I got to feed. So I go to Data and get all the buckets, and I get everything together. I put them out there, and then the blue curl comes in, and they don't touch the syrup, So, and then I got all this syrup I got to deal with over winter and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens.
Now, is the blue curl late? Should it have been here sooner?
No. Well, no. I mean, yes and no. It's about that time of year where it should be going full strength right now. It's going, but it's not up to par yet. But I had some that bloomed in May. That's like 3 months early or 2 months earlier than it should even be out of the ground. So I don't know what's going on, but I had thistle that didn't produce any nectar. So it's weird. I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell.
Yeah.
Time always tells, but that's all. I don't have much going on.
Well, here we finally got some cooler weather. I was supposed to today run around and start putting ApiGuard on, but my fault. I didn't order it until like Saturday, so it didn't come in the mail till this afternoon around 4. So tomorrow I'm going to be running around. I have this window, and I'm not sure how long it's going to be. So I want to try to get as much ApiGuard on my colonies as possible. But I only have tomorrow and maybe Monday, because Saturday, Sunday, I'll have the markets. I'm pretty ready for my markets. I have all my product ready, but I just won't be able to work any of my bees Saturday, Sunday. So I'm in that kind of trying to treat my colonies, but looking at the weather, because I like to use ApiGuard at this time of the year. So
me too.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes. All right. Thanks, Keith. Really appreciate you coming on. Appreciate the perspective.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Keith.
you bet. Always. You're always.
You made me think.
All right. That's good. Hopefully people got some ideas in the chat, maybe a couple pieces here and there about something they might be able to incorporate into their bee yard or their business model. Keith, you're always welcome to pop on. I know it's a double header if you do, and that's a pretty late night, but you're always welcome. Todd, have a great night out there in California. Keep sending the rain our way. We'll keep taking it.
Yeah, I'll do that.
if you have any influence in that matter.
Yeah, you never know.
And thanks everyone for sticking in for a late night. I know for some of you it's almost midnight. Really appreciate you hanging in there. And if you're watching the replay at another time, thanks for listening in. We will be back August 27th. That's 2 weeks from today on Todd's channel, Loma Vista Bee Co. Stay tuned. Keith, you're on every Thursday. Do you know what your topic's going to be yet for next Thursday?
No, I usually, as soon as the chat's over, I start thinking about next week. So I've got a list of possibles, but no, don't know for sure yet.
Right on. All right. Well, thanks again for coming on, Keith. Todd, have a great night. Everyone, we'll see you in the chats.
And I'll see you in the morning, Keith, with my coffee.
I'll be there.
All right, and I'm going to press the red button.
The red button in the top right.
Nice.
I got it.